So today what I'm going to show you and demonstrate is how to produce a set of action minutes. Last week we worked on traditional minutes, which are formal minutes for formal business meetings. Sometimes they're regarded as a legal document. Most often they'll be used in the case of maybe local authority planning committee meetings, board of directors meetings for local organisations, maybe legal meetings, these types of things, okay? Action minutes are slightly different. So just let me share my screen. First thing we're going to go to is our copy of our traditional minutes from last week. Okay, so we have our Friends of Museum Society minutes of meeting, which was held on the 8th of June 2020 at 8 p.m, 2000 hours and such like. List of who was present. Remember, in the traditional minutes, your headings are always numbered and your headings are exactly the same as what appears in the agenda notice of meeting. Okay. So firstly, we have a list of who's present, then we have apologies. So apologies from Mr. L. Wilson. Then there is a particular running order for items to be discussed in the meeting. The minutes of the meeting should reflect the running order of the agenda. So 1 is apologies, 2 is minutes of last meeting, 3 is matters arising from previous minutes, 4 is correspondence, whether there's been correspondence received or not, it would be indicated here. Then 5, 6, 7, etc. would be the topics discussed at today's meeting. And then the final 2 items on the agenda are always any other competent business, any other business or any other competent business, sometimes shortened to AOB or AOCB, and date of next meeting or date and time of next meeting. Okay, so these are always the final 2 items. The first 4 items are always apologies, minutes of previous meeting, last meeting, matters arising, correspondence, okay? And present does not need a number next to it. So these are our traditional minutes laid out in the traditional formal way. These, if we require a formal record of a meeting for data protection purposes, freedom of information purposes, just to record things for local authorities, that type of thing, this is the way that we would lay them out. What can sometimes also be prepared and used is what's classed as action minutes. Action minutes. Action minutes can also be used when it's a more informal meeting. So if there was a meeting at your work to decide where to go for Christmas lunch this year, something like that, okay? Or a more informal meeting about a summer event, something like that. Maybe an informal meeting amongst the team. Maybe your team get together on a weekly basis and everybody updates each other on what tasks they've been doing, what they're working on, that type of thing. So action minutes could be used on their own in that case, okay, as an informal document, just to record who is responsible for doing what and by when. Sometimes action minutes also go along with traditional minutes, okay? And just to highlight, if you think if you are a committee member, you're getting out minutes of meetings like this, you want to know what your actions are straight away. So where it could be highlighted for everybody individually, that would be a lot of work for the secretary, administrator. So what we often do is produce action minutes instead. To do this, what we shall do is go to a brand new Word document, single-spaced, remember, single-spaced each time, create. Okay, and what I'm going to do in this instance is I am going to change my layout. Okay, I prefer landscape because I think it makes it easier. So go to layout and orientation and change to landscape. So instead of up and down the way, we're going to be using landscape when this changes. Okay, and I'm going to use a table to set out my action minutes and record who is responsible for what. So if I'm going to do action minutes based on Friends of the Museum, this information could be exactly the same. So what I could do is just copy this over, actually. Copy this over. And that'll help me. There we go. Okay, so this will help me here. V. That's it. Okay, copy twice accidentally. Never mind. So this is just giving me information to work from here. That's all. So So up here we would have our title, meeting, okay, Friends of the Museum Society. Here and when it was held. It was held in the study room of the museum, 8th of June. You can lay it out like that, or you can have Friends of Museum Society 8, okay, 8th of June. So it's laid out slightly less formally, if you like. You could keep your work consistent. So if meeting is in capitals, put date in capitals. If you're not using capitals, don't use capitals. Okay, I'm going to lay mine out in bold just because I think it stands out a little bit better. So this tells me what the meeting was, and it tells me where and when it was held. Okay, I would still like a list of people present. So I'm going to copy and paste this, but maybe lay it out a slightly different way. So copy, okay, here, right. So still a list of people present so that we know who is present. So present, Miss M. Hughes. I'll make that bold as well so that it's in keeping with the rest. Okay, so chairperson, what I can do is bring this up like this. Okay, I'm just deleting the extra spaces. You can retype this if you want. It may be that if you have no need to type traditional minutes, if it's a more informal meeting, it may be in real life that you just type action minutes. Okay, so there would be no need to type out 2 documents. It may be that action minutes are sufficient, and that's quite often the case for regular weekly or monthly team meetings. Okay? There's no need for a formal minute. Formal minutes or traditional minutes, such as these, traditional minutes in this format are more for committee meetings, annual general meetings, legal type meetings, or where there needs to be a formal record of something kept about what was agreed as well as what action was taken. These action minutes are just for the actions. Who needs to do what action? Okay, who needs to do what action? So before we go any further, I'm going to save my work so that I don't lose it. So save as, and let me go in here. Okay, find my NC practice, and these are my action minutes, Friends of the Museum. Okay, there we go. So I can find that, and it's good practice to save your work when you start it. As soon as you start it in that way, if you have a proper filing structure, you'll be able to find it again. Okay, now what I want to do is think about the different actions that I need to record in here. So I am going to insert a table, but let's think about this. What information do I need? So I want the agenda item number, okay, so the item number of the agenda, so that's one column. Then I want what is the action, that's the second column. Who is responsible, third column. And fourth column would be by what date, okay? And if there's not a date given in the minutes, in the traditional minutes, then you would just say by date of next meeting, okay? So that would be the date given for you. If there's not a date given or discussed. So if I want 4 columns, as I said, insert table 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to put 4 rows in at the moment. So the first one was agenda item number. Okay, oops. Second one was the action, person responsible, and date for completion. Okay, or date for action. I think we can reduce some of these columns and make the action column the largest one. And the reason being that the action will take up most, it'll be a sentence or 2. Okay, there we go. So date for completion, person responsible. That's it. Okay, so I've adjusted my table accordingly. I'm going to make my headings bold because I like them to stand out. It's up to us as administrators to make our work look presentable as well as to be correct and practical. So now what I want to do is read through my traditional minutes and find out where there's any actions and how I can transfer this over. So the first item, apologies were received from Mr. L. Wilson. don't really need that. I could, if I wanted to, okay, I could if I wanted to go back up here and add that in here. Apologies received from Mr. L. Wilson. And that just keeps the record correct. So L. Wilson might say, well, I wasn't at that meeting. He should still receive a copy of the action minutes. Okay, let's take the full stop out because we don't full stops anywhere else. So don't put the full stop in here. So that's the first thing. Right, minutes of last meeting. The minutes of the last meeting having been circulated to members were taken as read and approved and signed by the chairperson. There's no action for anybody to take at the moment for that, okay? The action happened at the last meeting. They were read and approved and signed, so there's no action to be taken between now and the next meeting. Matters arising from minutes. The committee agreed at the last meeting to award the contract for restoration of Hamilton tapestries to Picture Restorations. Picture Restorations have commenced this work. It was agreed that a monthly update on progress of the restoration be made to the committee by Mrs. Marriott. Okay, so there's an action. Mrs. Marriott has to update the committee at this monthly meeting of Friends of Museum Society on progress. So that is item number 3, okay, on the minutes. So we would go here, and it's item number 3. It was monthly progress report on restoration of Hamilton tapestries to be obtained from the company and then presented. Okay, so you have to use your initiative now and think, if Pictures Restorations are the company doing the restoration work, Mrs. Marriott has to speak to them on a monthly basis, find out how the restoration is going, and then she has to present that very briefly at the monthly meeting. Okay, so Pictures Restoration. From, oh, sorry, press something accidentally there. Pictures Restorations. So that is Mrs. Marriott that has to do that. So if you like, that's the first action. Okay, so that could be 3. That could be 3A. Then what we must do is we could break it down further. Okay, we could break it down further, and we could say 3B, because there's 2 parts to this action. 2 parts. Mrs. Oh, back up in line. Mrs. Right. Progress report on restoration of Hamilton tapestries to be presented to monthly committee meeting, and that's Mrs. Marriott as well. Okay, so we've broken Mrs. Marriott's job down into 2 parts, if you like, 2 steps. We're thinking about the processes, the steps involved in this. So she has to find out the information from Pictures Restorations, then she has to present it to the company. So monthly progress report on restoration of Hamilton tapestries to be obtained from Pictures Restorations, who are the company who are restoring the tapestries. And then this progress report has to be presented to the monthly committee meeting of Friends of the Museum. Okay, and that's Mrs. Marriott who's going to be responsible for both of these. Date for completion, in this case, it would be by next meeting. Okay, it would be starting by the next meeting and thereafter and monthly ongoing. Okay, there we go. So every month this would be an action for Mrs. Marriott. Now, I don't mind if you have full stops in here or not. To be honest, if you've got full stops here and here, it might be an idea to put them there, but just be consistent. If you have full stops here and here, you may want to put them elsewhere. I think in this case, I will take them out because it'll probably make life much easier. Okay, to be consistent, I'm going to take them out so that I don't have full stops, but it's easy to see these are separate actions because there's a blank line in between. It may even be that you actually want to put these on different rows. Okay, so it would not be wrong. It would not be wrong to put this in like this, okay, and put 3B down here. So I'm cutting and pasting. You can put them in one row or you can put them in separate rows. So it would not be incorrect to put them on separate rows either. Each action has its own row. And this would be copied put down here as well. Okay, so that's another way of doing it. Either way would be correct. Either way would be correct. So don't worry about it. Okay, so that's item 3A, 3B. I've made these into two actions. So the first action was Mrs. Marriott has to obtain monthly progress report from Pictures Restorations. The second action is she has to present it to the committee. Okay, here's another one. Correspondence has been received from the local primary school. Mrs. Brodie, P7, if they can arrange a private visit to the museum for the school children. That's supposed to say for the school children. Okay. Miss Farlow and Miss Winters agreed to act as tour guides when the school children visit the museum. Sorry, I've just noticed that was absolutely correct. What was there? I misread a line. Okay. So the visit is from P7 class who are studying local history. Mr. Greer arranged to arrange the date of the visit with Miss Brodie, and then Miss Farlow and Miss Winters agreed to act as tour guides. So there's two actions in here as well. Mr. Greer is to liaise or speak to Mrs. Brodie and agree the date of the visit. Then Miss Farlow and Miss Winters will act as tour guides at the visit. Okay, so for item number 4, we're going to put some actions in as well. I'm going to need more rows in, so I'm going to insert some more rows just now, just to get ready. Insert rows below, and I'll repeat that as well. Okay, so 4A, there's going to be two actions here. 4A, so it was Mr. Greer liaise with Mrs. Brodie, P7 teacher, and agree date for primary children to visit. Okay, the exhibition. Person responsible was Mr. Greer, and again we'll say this is by the date of the next meeting. Okay, by date of next meeting. 4B was who were the ladies that were going to help out at the visit? Mrs. Farlow and Miss Winters. Mrs. Farlow and Miss Winters. So Mrs. Farlow and Miss Winters to act as tour guides for primary school visit to exhibition. Okay, now I've just realised I've made a wee mistake in here, and this is what will happen when you're doing action minutes. Okay, so Mrs. Farlow and Miss Winters, I can take that out of here, okay, and put it in the person responsible. So it's Miss Farlow and Miss Winters, right? So we can just make this action. You have to think about how you're laying out your actions. So the agenda items, okay, what number was this on the agenda? What is the specific action to be taken? Who is responsible and what date? We don't know the date of this yet, so what we say is TBC, and that means to be confirmed. To be confirmed, TBC. Okay, there you go, TBC. It's okay just to write TBC, or you can do it this way, to be confirmed, TBC. So act as tour guides for primary school visit, because we don't know the date of the visit yet. Mr. Greer has not yet spoken to Mrs. Brodie and agreed, okay, but the date will be confirmed. We might be able to update these actions at the next meeting. Okay, let's go back to our traditional minutes and see if there's any other actions. Schools exhibitions having been such a success are due to be repeated throughout the remainder of June and July. The exhibition will open on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays for these 2 months. Mrs. Matthews to organise new promotional materials advertising the extended exhibition. So Mrs. Matthews has an action. So that's number 5. So up here I'm going to insert more rows at this stage. Insert rows below, and let's repeat a couple. We might end up going on another page, but that's okay. So this is 5, item 5. Not every item on the agenda will have an action. Okay, so this was Mrs. Matthews to organise new promotional materials for the schools exhibition. Okay, they're going to open on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays for June and July. So promotional materials. Promotional materials advertising extended opening of schools exhibition Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays throughout June and July. So promotional materials advertising extended opening of schools exhibition Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays throughout June and July to be, what was the wording in our traditional? Organised. Okay, there we go, to be organised. And the person responsible was Mrs. Matthews. So Mrs. Matthews. Have I spelt Mrs. Matthews' name correctly, or does she have two T's? No, she's got one T there, so that's fine. Okay, so Mrs. Matthews. And that will be by the date of the next meeting as well. It'll have to be as soon as possible, actually, because we are in June at the moment. So if it's throughout June and July, Mrs. Matthews is going to have to get her skates on and get acting on this quite quickly. So if today's the 8th of June, it's quite possible that maybe she was given a week to do this, something like that. Okay, so let's say she was given a week to do this. It was discussed at the meeting. You would be responsible as administrator for taking notes at the meeting, and you would know the dates. If there's no dates given, then as administrator, it would be within your remit to say, is there a deadline date for that? Okay, so let's say that there was a deadline date of 15th of June. Okay, for that one. So that one's not by the next meeting, it's by 15th of June. We are giving Mrs. Matthews 1 week to do this. Okay, let's go see if there's any more actions now. So that's the actions there. Number 6, Mr. Greer Chiles with local press putting another article out requesting artifacts and photographs for forthcoming mining exhibition. Okay, so this is number 6. We want an article in the press requesting artifacts. Okay, so item number 6, and article to be included in local press requesting artifacts and photographs from, it's from the local community. Okay, it's from the local community. If you look at it, requesting articles and photographs for the forthcoming mining exhibition. Okay, so anybody with the local community who has anything, any information about the mining. Okay, so we need to be very clear what our actions are: artifacts and photographs from the local community which would be of interest in the upcoming mining exhibition. Okay, there we go. That's our action there. And that is Mr. Greer that's going to do that one. So Mr. Greer, and that will be by date of next meeting as well. Date of meeting. Okay, is that the way I've written it? By date of next meeting. By date of next meeting. There we go. We shall keep it consistent what we're doing. I don't need this row. There's no further actions. So delete those. That row. Okay, I would save this. And if this was an informal meeting, if there was no traditional minutes produced at all, then we could quite easily see any actions that have to be taken. So we know that Mrs. Marriott, by the next meeting and ongoing, has to get a monthly progress report from Hamilton Tapestries on the restoration of Hamilton Tapestries from Picture Restorations. We know she has to present this at the monthly meeting. We know that Mr. Greer has to liaise with Mrs. Brodie, P7 teacher, and agree a date for primary school children. We know that once he's agreed that, he'll tell the date at the next meeting of the visit, and Miss Farlow and Miss Winters have agreed to act as tour guides. We know that Mrs. Matthews is going to arrange or organise promotional materials advertising the extended opening of school exhibitions. So what we have to think about as administrators is putting sufficient information in here in the action so that the person responsible knows what they have to do and when they have to do it by. Okay. As I said, many meetings may just have an action minute like this and nothing else. But it's also quite common for traditional meetings or formal meetings to have an action minute on the front and then the traditional minute behind. And these would be two accompanying documents. And the reason that you would have that, and quite often, is so that everybody could run down the list of persons responsible, see if they have anything to do. When you come away from having attended a meeting, you might forget what you have to do. It's very easy then just to run down this list and say, is my name on there? Oh, Mr. Greer, what do I have to do? I have to do that, and I have to do that as well. And then you can use this as an aid memoir as to what you have to do in advance of the next meeting. And this is how we would lay out our action minutes, okay? So it's the agenda item. What was the agenda item? What was the action? And think clearly about the action. Now, again, I've said keep it all completely consistent. I don't mind if you have more than one sentence in here, put full stops in, and I don't mind if there's no full stops elsewhere. As long as you are consistent, if you have them in one row for the actions, then you have them in all rows for the actions. You don't have them in some places and not in others. So if you have full stops in 6, 4B, 4A, etc., but not in 5, I would put this back to you and say you need to put a full stop in there as well. So just be consistent. That's all I'm asking you to do, okay? Remember, as administrators, it's the most important thing we can do. It's also about making sure your work is presentable, it's easily understood. So we can easily understood, this is the agenda item number because that's in bold. This is the action, that's the person responsible, and this is the date for completion. Okay, so let me stop sharing that just now and come back in. And that's how to work on and complete action minutes. Okay, so just practice it on. That's it. Thank you.